Ciao, this is Liam, episode 4 of 4. The score is the answer. The reflection is whether you can read it and say something true. That distinction, analyze versus describe, is the whole thing. Describing says what the score contains. Analyzing says what it means. A student who describes writes, "My score has 4 human steps and 6 Claude steps." A student who analyzes writes, "My score has a high count of domain verification steps because the claim flagging domain requires human reviewers to know the policy version in effect on the claim date. That knowledge is not in any document Claude can access." Same score, different reading. This episode is 4 prompts, assembled into one document. Let's go. Prompt A is the supervisory capacity distribution. Read the distribution table from your score, which capacity appears most often, which appears least or not at all. Your analysis must say what those counts reveal about your domain, not about the scoring rubric, about your domain. A high domain verification count means your system's human steps require reviewers with specific domain knowledge at every handoff. A 0 count on ethical judgment may mean your system genuinely does not route ethically sensitive decisions to humans. That is a legitimate design property, not a gap, if you can say why. Address any 0 count specifically. Do not ignore it. 150 to 200 words citing your own score. Prompt B is the hardest handoff. Pick one of the highest risk handoffs from the score summary. The requirement, concrete failure. Not the engineer might miss something. That sentence names no failure. Name the specific wrong output Claude would produce at that step, the specific thing an engineer would wrongly accept, and the downstream consequence. Connect it to one of the 4 skeptical moves from Chapter 1. The skeptical moves are not decoration. The connection must be argued, not asserted. Prompt C asks you to pick one task in your score and argue that it should move, either from Claude to human or from human to Claude, using the mechanical execution versus judgment about specification frame. The frame works like this. Claude is reliable on tasks where the specification fully determines the output. If I give Claude a well-formed input and a complete rule set, and the correct output is determined by applying those rules, that is mechanical execution. Claude can do it reliably. Judgment about specification is different. It is the judgment about whether the specification is correct, complete, or applicable in this case. That judgment cannot be fully specified in advance. If it could be, it would be mechanical execution. The sentence your prompt C should contain: I would move task from Claude to human because this task requires judgment about specification, specifically what the specification cannot determine. Not because the intuitive reason you initially had. The second half of that sentence, the not because, is what distinguishes a prompt C that passes from one that describes a preference. Your intuition about the task is not the argument. The frame is the argument. Prompt D is where most students lose points. It applies the solve verify asymmetry from episode 3 to a specific step. The requirement, identify the single step where verification is most expensive relative to production. Then answer 3 sub-questions with specificity. 1. Which Claude step is it, and why is the following verification expensive? What domain knowledge does the human need to run the check correctly? 2. What specific wrong output would Claude produce at that step that a developer with general technical skill but not domain expertise would accept without catching? 3. A realistic timeline for when the team discovers the mistake in production. The timeline must have a number and a reason, not the team might not catch it quickly. That sentence contains neither a number nor a cause. An acceptable timeline, the team discovers the error at the quarterly policy audit. Approximately 90 days after deployment, when a reviewer with policy version expertise finds that 3 flagged claims were rejected under the wrong rule version. That sentence has a timeline, a discovery mechanism, and the domain knowledge required to catch it. Write prompt D at that level of specificity. The grader reads it last, and it is the prompt that separates the students who read the score from the students who read the assignment. Assemble one document, your app name at the top, the full SDD, which is GRU's unedited output plus your personal paragraph, followed by 4 labeled sections: prompt A, prompt B, prompt C, prompt D. Each prompt is 150 to 200 words. Check the word counts before you submit. Prompt under 150 words is usually thin on the domain reasoning. Prompt D over 200 words is usually a student burying the answer in context. Before you submit, run the prompt D check. Does your response name a specific step, a specific wrong output, and a timeline with a number and a reason? If any of those 3 are missing, you have not answered prompt D, you have described the question. The submission is one PDF or one markdown file. Do not submit the SDD and the reflection as separate documents. The grader uses the SDD to check whether prompts A through D are grounded in the actual score, so they need to be in the same document. Submit to Canvas. Verdict for read the answer, the reflection, and ship. Analyze, do not describe. Prompt A cites the distribution table and says what the count reveals about the domain, not the rubric. Prompt B names a concrete failure, specific wrong output, specific acceptance, downstream consequence, one skeptical move argued. Prompt C uses the mechanical execution frame, judgment about specification, not because intuition. The not because clause is required. Prompt D names the step, the wrong output a non-expert would accept, and a discovery timeline with a number and a cause. One document, app name, full SDD, prompts A through D labeled. Each prompt 150 to 200 words. That is the complete week 1 submission. Your turn, paste this prompt into Claude with your boondoggle score already loaded. The prompt reads, here's my boondoggle score, paste. I want to write prompt D of the boondoggle reflection. Prompt D asks me to identify the single step where verification is most expensive relative to production. Give me 3 things, do not write the 150-word response, give me the inputs I need to write it myself. 1. Which Claude step should I pick? And why is the following verification step expensive? What specific domain knowledge does the human need to run the check correctly? 2. What specific wrong output would Claude produce at that step that a developer with general technical skill but not domain expertise would accept without catching? 3. A realistic timeline for when the team discovers the mistake in production, a number and the mechanism that triggers discovery. After you get those 3 answers, write prompt D yourself, 150 words. The timeline must have a number and a reason. That is prompt D. Then assemble the full document, app name, SDD, prompt A, prompt B, prompt C, prompt D, 1 file, submit. Read the answer, the reflection plus ship, lay 'em in for bear.